Tiffany, otherwise known as the Knitting Poet. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is now my second video. Today we're going to be talking about 2026 winter knitting plans. Before we jump in, just wanted to first say thank you all so much for the wonderful, kind responses to my last video. I was so nervous putting it out there, and as always, the knitting community just continues to surprise me every single time. With how welcoming and kind and supportive you all are. I was totally blown away. I'm just feeling so happy and grateful to be meeting all of you here in this new way. Thank you all for that. So we're gonna keep going. As I said, if it goes okay, we'll keep going. So here we are. Today we're gonna talk about 2026 winter knitting plans, which are already well underway, and I'm having the best time staying cozy and warm inside working on all of these fun projects. I'll briefly mention what I'm wearing. Was a whip in my first podcast episode if you want a little bit of a closer look or more detail, but this is my newly finished step-by-step sweater by Florence Miller, knit in Cascade Ecological wool natural taupe twist. And I went back and added some length to it. This was the very first sweater I ever made, and it was just a little bit too short, so I'm so happy that I went back and did that. It's my first time going back into a project and editing it after the fact. It was really fun. I'm glad I did it, and now I'm wearing it all the time. I also got to give it a little bit of a brushing and reblock, so now it's just very cozy and feeling like a brand new sweater. Anyway, that's what I'm wearing today, being very cozy. And we've got the fire on, we've got the heat up. It is very chilly, frosty, and foggy outside today, even though it is also very sunny, so it's a beautiful winter day. So my approach to winter knitting plans this year is very loose, very much just like giving myself a lookbook of things to look through, ideas I could cast on, and having a little bit more of a sense of what I want to work on next, so I can not be purchasing tons of excess yarn, but enough that I feel like I could start my next project whenever I'm feeling ready or inspired to cast it on. I won't be doing any sort of make 9 or like whole plans for the entire year, and even within each season, I think my plans could definitely change. They already have changed a few times, but that's kind of the beauty of it that I'm finding I really enjoy. I really try and live my life broken up by seasons, and being very intentional when seasons change. My routines and lifestyle tend to change with it in a very intentional way. I'm finding that I really enjoy that, so approaching knitting in the same way feels really good. I don't know that I'll be splitting it out into 4 seasons a year. We'll see. Something that I'm really trying to focus on for 2026 is not feeling any pressure to finish things in any timeline and not being afraid to let whips sit and hibernate for a while. So some of these projects I'm anticipating I either have already started or will start this winter, but come springtime, if I'm feeling like I want to work on something fresh and more light and spring summery, I'm planning to try and be totally comfortable putting any of these projects away until next fall, or whenever I'm feeling like I want to work on something a little bit more cozy fall winter. I'm trying to just approach this with no pressure, no expectations. This is really just what's inspiring me and what I'm generally planning to be working on over the next few months until spring arrives. Okay, let's jump right in. The way I've set this document up, I kind of have just like a general mood board, images of the patterns, especially if I can find a similar example of someone who's knit it in a similar color or yarn choice that I'm planning, I'm including that. If there's any modifications I'm planning to make to the pattern. And then as I'm casting on, finishing, starting my own versions, I'm going and replacing the photos with my versions, which has been really fun to see. The first couple photos trickle in, like my inspiration and then how it came to life. Oh, maybe I should do like maybe I should keep both side by side on each individual project page. That would be fun. Anyway, first up is the Ultimate Mittens by Purl Soho. These are a finished object. I just finished them about a week ago. They turned out so fun. Hopefully you can see. These just turned out so cozy. I'm really happy with them. They've already been getting tons of wear. I had to go down a lot on the needle size, which was surprising. So they're super thick, super dense. I was out on a cold wintry beach in the rain, super windy, stormy day, and I did not feel any wind or rain through these. So I'm very happy with how practical these have been already. Wearing them on the ferry is great. When it gets so cold and I'm just sitting in my car. And yeah, these are definitely a wonderful winter project that I'm so glad that I found the time to do. This was my first pair of mittens ever, and it was so much easier than I thought they would be. I'll go into like all of the details about this in a knitting podcast episode because that is not what today is, but this was a plan and is now a completed plan. I used Knitting for Olive heavy merino in Hazel and soft silk mohair in bark, and I knit a size adult medium. I did do kind of my own thing for the cuff. So heavily modified cuff, if you are looking at the pattern page and it doesn't look anything like this. I think it just has a stockinette and then a rolled cuff, but I really wanted to have a super dense 1x1 rib. So I did an Italian cast on and a couple other things here. And then I did knit the largest size for the thumb. I don't know if I just have freakishly large thumbs in proportion to the rest of my hand, but that worked out really well because they were really tight. And these are a really great fit. So I'm really excited to have these. Okay, I need to stop talking about them, Emily, because this is not a knitting podcast. I'm just so excited that I made them. Show you a little bit more of the increases for the gusset, which was so fun. So yeah, I'm really happy that I kind of know how to make mittens now. And oh, I also made these to match my kilometer scarf, which I also spoke more about in the previous podcast episode as a finished object. So I love having a little matching set, and this is not in my winter knitting plans just because I've knit so many hats lately, but I still do hope to do a matching hat in the same yarn combination to match. And then I'll have a hat, mitten, and scarf set, which I think would be really fun. That is our first one. Ultimate Mittens by Purl Soho, complete, check. Next one is a work in progress, which I also was talking about, kind of the very early stage process of swatching for this and finding the yarn, and that is my season sweater by Ullen or Ullen Knitwear. Apologies, I still don't know how to say this. And this is knit in Cascade Pure Alpaca in color 3003 Ruby. Apologies, in my last video I think I said it was cherry, but I have confirmed since it is ruby. And Sandnes Garn Tynn Silk Mohair in the color 4236 Deep Red. These are such a beautiful combination. Here are the two yarns. I'm having so much fun working with this combination. I feel like every time I sit down to work on this and like feel the yarn glide through my fingers, I'm just like, oh yes, my favorite project. It is such a luxurious combination of yarn. It is so soft. I just love touching it and working with it. Yeah, this is my like evening full concentration project. So I've pretty much just been sat watching shows, YouTube videos, listening to audiobooks, listening to music, cuddling with my dogs, and working full attention on this project. So it has been so much fun. And it's a little bit in an awkward state right now, so I'll try and insert some better photos to show it clearly, but I'll try and also hold it up for you. Let's see. I have finished the back yoke, and I just finished the left and right front yoke. This afternoon I will connect them. So getting very close to the next milestone. And I am just loving how delightful these cables are turning out. This is my first cabled project. I went through many swatches and many different ideas to figure out what I wanted to do for this, and I'm so happy that I ended up just going for the pattern that I was originally inspired by. One big modification that I am making, which so far is the only modification I'm making, I think, is I am doing the cables a different way than is specified in the pattern. The pattern specifies a symmetrical cable, which is beautiful and doable. I did swatch for it and it was fine, but being my first cable project, I just wanted something a little bit simpler as I learned about cabling. So I'm doing just a standard 3/2 left leaning twist. So different than the sample photo or as the pattern intends, but it's still a cabled red turtleneck. This is a project that I'm still having so much fun working on and have no intentions of slowing down on it anytime soon. It has all of my love and attention at the moment, but I am prepared to set it aside for the warmer months if I just feel like it's a little too Christmassy to be working on as it gets a little bit warmer. But yeah, so far I'm just having so much fun working on it. So we'll see if this ends up being a finished object this season or if I just get a great start and pick it back up once the weather cools down again. So far I think it's going really fast. Much faster than I anticipated for being my first cabled project, but We'll see. I know there's about to be a lot more stitches on the needles. Next up is a hat that I'm working on for my aunt's birthday. I had made one for my cousin for Christmas, and my aunt just kept saying how she loved it so much, and her birthday is coming up, so I thought I would cast on a hat for her. I just recently turned for the brim to flip up, and I am using Cascade 220 in the color navy. I am planning to use like a light blue or white scrap yarn for the crochet edge at the end. This is the loosest gauge I've ever worked with for this type of yarn or for a hat. I think it's still gonna seem really dense. It's been really fun. This is kind of my like mindless stockinette project at the moment. That is my Aunt Libby's birthday beanie. Oh, next up, I'm so excited about this one. I also did mention this briefly in the future planning section of my last podcast, and I have since acquired yarn for it. So this is the indecisive poncho by Ullen or Ullen Knitwear, and I have one of the two yarns that I'm going to be working with. I was coming home on the ferry with my mom, and there happens to be a lovely yarn store really close to the ferry. I ended up getting Cascade 220 in the color Van Dyke Brown. It is this gorgeous, like rich, dark, really cool brown color, super dark. I'm really excited about this. As I may have mentioned in my last episode, I am really into brown at the moment, and I am really, really picky with color and browns especially. I'm just very picky with color in general, and this is exactly what I was looking for. So now I'm on the hunt for a mohair to hold with it. If you happen to have a favorite really dark, rich, cool toned brown mohair that you love, please let me know. This, I feel like, is not something that I'm really gonna be wearing as soon as it becomes spring. So again, I'm kind of anticipating this will be something that I'll get a good start on this winter, and then we'll just see how I'm feeling. It is gonna be a pretty nice, just like lots of stockinette, so maybe it'll carry in through spring and summer. We'll see. I'm not really in any hurry to get this finished, but I just love the pattern so much, and I really wanna have it for next fall. So I'm gonna try and get as far as I can on it and just work on it until I don't want to anymore. I am hoping to cast that on sometime in February, if not the end of January. So I'm so excited about this one. It just looks so fun. Next up is another pair of mittens, and my first pair of Colorwork mittens, which I was excited to make the plain brown mittens that I made. Like, I wanted them, I knew they'd be practical, I wanted them to match my scarf. I think they turned out beautiful and I'm excited for them, but this is what I've been waiting for. As soon as I started knitting, I was watching Florence Miller's podcast, as I'm sure we all were, just nonstop. As soon as she showed her first pair of Colorwork mittens, I was like, this is what I was born to knit. I just find them so fascinating and beautiful. And something I love about knitting and all forms of like craft and folk art in general is how such practical everyday things become pieces of art. And I love just like the rich history and tradition behind Colorwork mittens, Selbu mittens, traditional stranded mitten knitting. All of that is so interesting to me. So I am going to attempt my first pair of Colorwork mittens, hopefully this winter. I really do want to work on this, but I think that by the time I get around to it, it will potentially no longer be cold enough to wear mittens where I live. So we'll see. This is on the list. I really would like to do it, but this might be one of the ones that gets pushed to later in the year. We'll see. I'm really excited to work on this one though. I haven't decided on the color yet. Oh, I'm gonna work on the Merit Mittens by Sandnes Knits. I just think these are so precious. The colorwork motif is so beautiful. All of the different colorways I've seen them knit in have been stunning. I'm deciding if I want to do Florence's Latvian braid and 2-color ribbed technique or stick to what is in the pattern, or maybe a combination of the two. I'm not sure. I think both are really beautiful. So we'll see what happens as I get closer to casting on, but I am undecided on the color. Like I said, I don't have any yarn yet, not sure what I'm going to use, but I'm very open to finding yarn. The two colors that I'm deciding between are either kind of like a dusty mid blue as the main color with white as the contrast color, or a deep maroon as the main color with a really bright, like almost hot pink as the main color. So those are the inspiration photos I have, which I was like, oh my goodness, both of these are so beautiful. I don't know how I'm gonna choose. I think it's just gonna depend on whatever yarn I find. I'll just see it, it'll speak to me, I'll know that's the one. I think I'm maybe leaning a little bit towards the blue, just because I don't think I've knit anything really blue yet, aside from this navy hat, but I'm really excited. I just feel like this would be such a fun, cozy winter project to get lost in, especially like listening to an audiobook. My book club read The Bear and the Nightingale by Kristen Hanna over December, and some of us loved it, some of us hated it. I loved it. It was my favorite pick that our book club has ever done. And a few of us are now doing kind of a side quest book club to read the next two that come after that book. And they mentioned several times like she's putting on her mittens, she's going outside, it's so cold. And so I just think it would be so fun to be like working on these beautiful colorwork mittens while listening to that book in the depths of winter here. So we'll see. I'm hoping to work on this one, but again, it may or may not happen. I'm not gonna like force myself to cram it in if it's not feeling like the time to work on it, but I am hoping that it works out, and I'm excited for whenever I do find yarn and get to cast them on. Next one is, I have no idea what the pattern's gonna be, but I do have yarn. So whatever this project is will be based around this yarn, which is Indulge by Trendsetter in the color Desert. It is 60% mohair, 27% alpaca, 13% polyamide. 100 grams is 305 yards, 16 stitch gauge, but it's like pretty flexible. At first I was like, oh, this is just a mohair, it's so thin, but no, it is quite thick. So I don't know if you can really see that, but there's a lot of fluff happening here, and I have so much of this. I'd seen this like when I first got into knitting at my local yarn store, and I was just so intrigued by it. I don't know that I would necessarily like buy this now. This was like 80% off, so I got a very large amount of this for a shocking deal. It's really, really soft. I have no idea what I'm gonna make with it. There's nothing wrong with it, I still like it, but at first was like, oh, maybe I'll make some kind of like really loose, voluminous, like almost see-through, super open gauge, kind of like blousey top. But now I'm thinking maybe I'll hold it with something like Cascade 220 in either a navy or a brown and do some sort of like really dense, thick, oversized like turtleneck, really big, kind of like a chunkier knit. We'll see. I've never worked with like color changing yarn before, so I'm kind of nervous. I started trying to swatch, and I felt like it would be so wasteful to like use enough yarn to swatch where I could start to see the pattern of the colors emerge. So I feel like whenever I do cast this on, it's just going to be kind of like a see what happens. I definitely want it to be stockinette and really oversized and big. And I found a photo of like a swatch knit up, and I do think that looks really cool. I mean, I've seen sweaters like this before, but for some reason I'm just having a hard time picturing in my head how this is gonna come out. I don't know. We'll see. Again, this is one where I'm like, I really would like to use what's in my stash, especially because these are like very large balls and they're taking up a lot of room in my one yarn bin that I have, and I would really like to get this out of my stash. I do feel like there's a lot of cool things that I could do with it, and I maybe just haven't found the right thing yet, but some ideas I have to hold it with would be this Cascade 220 in Van Dyke Brown, so might spare a little from my poncho stash to knit up a swatch or two. I think those would look really good together. Or navy, so I'm also hoping to have a little bit left over from my hat so I could do a swatch with that. Maybe even like a purple, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure what to do with this, and I think the more I'm talking about it, the less excited I am about it. I don't know, maybe I need to give this yarn to someone else. But it's really soft, and I think it'd be fun to knit with, and I feel like this could be a really cool sweater. I'm just having a hard time picturing it. So I don't know, if you're really experienced with kind of like self-striping, color changing yarn in this way, please give me any tips or patterns that you like to do with it, or kind of how you find it behaves holding it with something else. I don't know, I'm feeling a little out of my depths, which is funny because I feel like I've been very brave and adventurous as a new knitter, just like trying lots of things, not being worried about learning new techniques, but for some reason this yarn is like intimidating me, which is ridiculous because it's just yarn, but it's really soft and I really think I would like a garment out of it. I'm just not sure. Send help. But some patterns that I am considering are a couple by Ozetta that I really liked the look of. It's the Rhodes sweater, Town sweater, or the Constellation sweater. I think all would be really beautiful. Or the Chestnut sweater by Petite Knit. I think something like this could be cool with a really simple pattern, but with lots of attention to fit and detail. That's this. I don't know what to do. I kind of just put this on here because I want to encourage myself to try using it. And I did get excited about some of these ideas for a while, but then I kind of went off of that and was more excited about other things. Okay, I have spilled a bit of water on myself. All right, last but not least is I am considering frogging my cloud blouse that I was wearing and chatting about in my last video. I don't know. I feel like these last two are just me being like, I don't know. I thought this just wasn't long enough. And then I realized I really don't like the neckline. And so then I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll just go back into it and redo the neckline. And then I put it on backwards by accident, which I talk about more in that video. And I was like, I think I just don't like how the neck is coming forward. But you know, I'm also just like not totally sold on this color, but this was like quite an investment in the yarn, and it is delightful to work with, to wear. Like, it's a really lovely yarn. But then I also think maybe something with an airier gauge would be nice to really let it be like as soft and drapey as it is. And this is not heavy or too dense by any means, but I do feel like the yarn isn't able to bloom and be as airy and nice and light and fluffy as it could be. Here it is now. And I just don't wear it. I just don't wear it. I mean, I would like to. I put it on sometimes when I'm getting dressed and then I end up taking it off. And I think I did a nice job. Like, it looks fine. I just maybe am not gonna wear a light pink sweater. I think I would wear a light pink sweater with a little bit more of like a boxy silhouette. Not that this isn't boxy, but I don't know, maybe more of like a masculine silhouette or something a little bit more oversized. I feel like almost this color with the rolled neck almost feels a little like frilly or too girly in a way that I don't love. And I love this yarn. And I really told myself early on when I started knitting that I do not want to be afraid to frog something if it is not working in my wardrobe, I'm not liking it for any reason. Like, there's good yarn in here. I could use this for something that I would love more. So I'm considering this. This again is one where I'm like not planning to start it, but I had the idea. I've put together like some inspiration images and potential yarn ideas. This is my latest idea and kind of vaguest, so we'll see. This one and the indulge situation are kind of my least solid plans. And then I was like, what if I hold them together? But I don't know. I feel like that's not doing either one of them justice. I feel like that's just me trying to mash two things together that I don't feel certain about. I think what I would maybe like is a true turtleneck out of this yarn. Like, I found this inspiration image where it has, I think, like a 2x2 rib, really tall turtleneck, or maybe it's a funnel neck, I can't remember. I don't know, it has a really tall 2x2 neck, 2x2 rib on the cuffs, which are pretty long. Yeah, maybe like a little bit more wintry of a silhouette, whereas this being a cloud blouse feels a little bit more summery to me, but that's like kind of not the time of year where I'm gonna wear it. So that's one idea. I also have lots of this yarn left over. I bought quite a bit of it since it was coming from France. So that's one idea, is I could just take this yarn as is, reknit it into a classic turtleneck that I really love the fit of better. So that feels appealing to me if I just want to like let the yarn be as beautiful as it is on its own. Though the color is part of the reason that I'm a little iffy on it. I think this is a beautiful color. I love it in general, but I think it's maybe just like a little bit close to my skin tone. I'm just not sold on it. So then I was like, well, maybe I could get into some sort of like marling combination, maybe with a slightly darker pink or maybe more of a purple, to make it like just darker enough that I feel like it's a little bit further away from my skin tone. That could be cool, but again, I'm just a little wary of like masking this beautiful, expensive yarn. But if that will then turn it into a garment that I love and be a color that I love even more, that would be nice. Like I said, I have plenty of this yarn left over, so I would love to maybe just get a couple like single balls of drops kid silk or brushed alpaca to maybe just try out a couple things in a small swatch. I think it maybe needs to be something a little bit, not bulkier in the sense of like a denser fabric, but more just like more fabric, like a larger sweater that's a little bit more oversized, a little bit more boxy, a little bit less frilly girly. Again, not something that I'm planning to cast on or start unraveling. That's kind of my last winter knitting plan. Again, some of these are not gonna end up being winter. Maybe there will be other things that slip in here that I'm not anticipating yet, but I put this note here for myself on this last page is let this sit until it feels right and have fun. And that is really the mindset that I'm trying to go into my knitting plans with, is these are all just ideas. I don't want to talk myself out of anything. If I have an idea, I want to feel free to write it down, put it in my document, gather my inspiration images, look for yarn, and see if it turns into something. Maybe it will, and it'll be a new project that I work on and love, and it came about spontaneously, or maybe I'll just get excited about it for that day or whatever, and it doesn't end up making it, or I file it away for later and another just kind of miscellaneous ideas graveyard or waiting room kind of thing. We'll see. I'm really excited about the plans I do have. I'm really enjoying having this format to scroll through and A, see my progress as I work through some of these things, but then B, just have kind of like a database of ideas that are a little bit more freeform than like a Ravelry queue or a favorites or a bundle. Like this is really kind of not just patterns that I want to make, but my vision for each finished object all together in one spot with room to write notes and kind of just play around with images and different inspiration as it speaks to me. So I think we'll wrap it up here. Thank you so much for joining me on these knitting plans. I hope you enjoyed seeing a little bit of how my brain works and how I think through these things. If you have knit any of these patterns or have plans of your own for the season, I would love to hear about them. I am always so interested to hear what other people are working on, especially as the seasons change. Like I'm always so curious if other people like to work on things in the season that they would wear them, or if they like to work on things ahead for the season. That is something I'm hoping to test out in summer, is working on some kind of like fall winter things in the summer so they're ready for me to wear as the weather cools down, versus just knitting on things that you would wear that season, but then they're not finished to wear that season, unless you're a super fast knitter, which I am not. All that to say, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here, and thank you all again so much for your kind notes on my last video. If you haven't seen that yet, I would love to hear what you think about it, and if you've knit any of those patterns. Yeah, like I said, would love to hear what you're knitting on this winter, what your favorite winter cast on or finished object has been. And I will be back hopefully soon with either podcast episode or a stash tour / idea video. We'll see how much progress I make. And if you don't already follow me on Instagram, that is @thenittingpoet. I update that almost every day, and I love chatting with all of you, seeing what you're working on. Would love to see you there and connect with you on there as well. Again, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. If it's winter where you are, I hope you're really enjoying the cozy season. If not, I hope you're staying cool. And with that, I will sign off, and until next time, thank you. Bye.